Never eat this on a cruise, unless you want to spend your vacation hunched over in your cabin, missing sunsets, shows, and everything you paid for. One wrong bite on board can spiral into nausea, food poisoning, or worse. Cruise kitchens feed thousands daily, and not all items are created equal. Some foods look harmless but come with hidden risks the crew won't warn you about. Ready to find out what could quietly ruin your entire trip? If you want to cruise smarter, stay healthy, and actually enjoy your vacation, this video is for you. We're counting down 11 foods you should better not eat on a cruise ship, and we're not just guessing. From raw buffet sushi to that irresistible ice cream machine, we're digging into the items even seasoned passengers avoid. You'll hear about real stories from cruisers who took one bite too many, along with quick tips for safer, better choices on board. And stick around to the end, because we'll also share 3 foods you definitely should eat on a cruise to make the most of your experience. These are the kitchen shortcuts, buffet mistakes, and portside temptations the cruise lines won't warn you about. But you're going to be ready, whether it's your first cruise or your 15th. Think of this as your edible survival guide for staying out of the medical bay and into the fun. Let's get into it, and you'll never look at that buffet line the same way again. It looked perfect. A neat little row of California rolls, spicy tuna, and shrimp nigiri on a chilled metal tray under soft lights. Rachel was starving and thought, "Hey, it's sushi night." She piled her plate and went back for seconds. But by 2 a.m., she was clutching her stomach, sweating, and praying it would pass. The culprit? Bad buffet sushi that had been sitting out too long, and she spent the next day confined to her cabin. Here's the thing. Sushi can be perfectly safe when it's fresh, stored properly, and prepared by trained hands. But buffet sushi on a cruise ship? It's a gamble. The trays are refilled in bulk, and the rice and seafood often sit out far longer than they should. Temperature fluctuations, cross-contamination, and even unwashed hands from guests grabbing rolls without tongs. It all adds up to a risky bite, and on a moving ship with limited medical staff, foodborne illness becomes a real problem. Even sushi made fresh earlier in the day can go bad by evening if it isn't kept at precise, cold temperatures. And the volume of guests means corners sometimes get cut to keep up with demand. The result? Raw fish and lukewarm rice that might look harmless until it's too late. Want sushi? Go to the specialty restaurant. Pay a little extra and get it made fresh by a real sushi chef in a clean, temperature-controlled kitchen. Or skip raw fish altogether and opt for grilled shrimp or seafood pasta instead. Because no sunset, no shore excursion, and no late-night comedy show is worth missing just because you trusted the wrong tray of tuna. And if you think sushi's risky, wait until you see what happens when the kitchen undercooks your burger. Tip number 2 is a food fail that's been hiding in plain sight. James was excited for his first lunch on board, a juicy burger sizzling on the poolside grill. He asked for it medium rare, just like back home. It came out pink in the middle, looked fine, smelled amazing, and within hours his stomach was twisting like a towel in a washing machine. The culprit? An undercooked patty that hadn't hit a safe internal temperature. He missed 2 full days of his vacation, stuck between nausea and regret. Cruise ships cater to thousands, which means bulk prep, long storage, and fast service. And when meat isn't cooked thoroughly, especially ground beef or cheap steaks, bacteria like E. coli and salmonella can survive and wreak havoc. Unlike whole cuts, ground meat mixes surface bacteria throughout the entire patty. If it doesn't hit 160 degrees Fahrenheit all the way through, you're rolling the dice with your health. Even steaks can be risky, especially if they're served rare or blue. Unless you know the ship's supplier, handling procedures, and kitchen temperature controls, which most guests don't. Eating undercooked meat at sea is a leap of faith. On land, you might tough it out. At sea, you're dealing with motion, limited medical staff, and nowhere to escape. The smart move? Order burgers well done, or stick to grilled chicken, veggie burgers, or hot options from the main dining room where food safety checks are tighter. If you must have steak, go for medium or higher, and skip the poolside grill on day 1. And while pink burgers are risky, what's even more deceiving is what you think is safe to drink. Because the next item, it comes straight from your cabin sink, and it's caused more than a few surprise stomach issues. Tip number 3 is one mistake most first-timers don't even think about. Samantha didn't drink the tap water. She was careful about that, but she did use it to brush her teeth. By day 3, her stomach felt off. Nothing dramatic at first, just bloating, cramps, and a sluggish energy that didn't go away. She blamed the motion of the ship until her roommate, who used bottled water for everything, felt perfectly fine the entire trip. Coincidence? Probably not. Cruise ships technically filter and treat tap water to make it safe to drink. But safe doesn't always mean clean, especially when it's sitting in older pipes or flowing through faucets that get cleaned once every blue moon. And while the water at dining venues and hydration stations is usually well filtered, your cabin's tap can be hit or miss. Trace minerals, slight contamination from storage tanks, or even biofilm buildup inside the pipes can lead to minor stomach upsets, the kind that mess with your energy just enough to ruin your day. What makes it tricky is that the symptoms don't always hit hard. You might just feel tired, nauseous, or bloated without knowing why. And on a cruise, even a little digestive discomfort can make you skip breakfast, pass on excursions, or crash early when you should be dancing. Fix it with one simple switch. Use bottled water for everything: drinking, brushing, even taking meds. Most ships sell bottled water in multi-packs, and you can often bring your own sealed bottles on board, or better yet, fill a reusable bottle at the main beverage stations where the water is filtered and chilled. Because feeling slightly off every day is worse than getting sick once. And if water can catch you off guard, just wait until you see the next harmless breakfast item that's made hundreds of guests feel queasy. Tip number 4 takes us back to the buffet and into a steamy tray of regret. They looked fluffy, soft, yellow, and piled high in a metal pan under the warming lights. Jason grabbed a generous scoop, threw on some bacon, and called it breakfast. But 20 minutes later, while sitting in the theater, his stomach started gurgling, loud enough for the row behind him to hear. He never made it to the end of the show. The culprit? Buffett's scrambled eggs. On cruise ships, buffet-style scrambled eggs are often pre-mixed powder or liquid eggs, not cracked fresh. They're made in massive batches and dumped into chafing dishes that sit out for extended periods. If the steam tables aren't hot enough, or if the eggs aren't rotated frequently, they drop into the danger zone of food safety, where bacteria like salmonella can multiply. It doesn't take much. Eggs are one of the most temperature-sensitive foods served on board, and the creamy texture that looks so inviting, that's often a sign they're lukewarm, not freshly hot. Even if the eggs don't make you seriously sick, they can easily upset your digestion, especially if you're not used to powdered or processed egg products. Add motion from the sea and a strong morning coffee, and you've got a rough start to your day at best. So what's the better option? Head to the omelet station. You'll wait a few extra minutes, sure, but your eggs will be cracked fresh, cooked hot in front of you, and likely include veggies or protein you actually enjoy. It's worth the short line for peace of mind and stomach. Because breakfast should fuel your fun, not send you running back to your cabin. But if you think the eggs are bad, the next cruise favorite might really surprise you. It's quick, cheesy, and smells incredible. But tip number 5 reveals why all-day pizza can turn into an all-night regret. For some cruisers, it's tradition. After a late night at the comedy club or a couple of cocktails at the piano bar, you grab a greasy slice or a sizzling hot dog from the 24-hour grill, and it hits the spot until about 3 a.m. That's when Mike woke up with cold sweats, a racing heart, and a stomach that felt like it was being flipped inside out. The culprit? A pepperoni slice that had been sitting under the heat lamp for hours. Here's what most people don't realize. Those always available foods like pizza, hot dogs, and fries may not be made fresh every time. Often, they're prepared in large batches and left under warming trays. Over time, as traffic slows down, that food sits in lukewarm conditions, losing both its taste and its safety. The outer layer might seem warm, but inside, it's the perfect temperature for bacteria to thrive, especially with cheese, meats, and bread absorbing steam. Combine that with tired staff during off hours, and the hygiene may not be what it was at peak lunchtime. Tongs aren't swapped as often. Guests may grab slices with their hands. Cross-contamination from shared surfaces builds up. And worst of all, late-night hunger tends to blind you to the risk. The smarter move? Grab a fresh slice during high-traffic mealtimes, or better yet, skip the heat lamp stuff entirely and head to the main dining room. You can order a made-to-order flatbread or even request something hot and cheesy without the risk. Also, bring your own sealed snacks for those late-night cravings. Because the only thing worse than a bad night's sleep on a ship is waking up too sick to enjoy tomorrow. Speaking of sweet temptations, wait until you hear what's hiding inside that dreamy soft-serve machine. Tip number 6 might make you think twice before reaching for that cone. It's hard to resist. A creamy swirl of vanilla or chocolate in a cone, melting just fast enough under the Caribbean sun. Katie got one every day, sometimes twice. But on day 4, she noticed something off. The machine handle was sticky, the drip tray was overflowing, and the cone she'd just eaten tasted a little sour. By dinner, her stomach was bubbling like a jacuzzi. Soft-serve ice cream machines are a cruise ship staple. But here's the scoop. They're also germ magnets. These self-serve stations are touched by hundreds of passengers daily. Some use the cone to pull the lever, others let kids handle it unsupervised, and many people don't wash their hands after excursions, before meals, or even after using the restroom. The result? Every surface, from the lever to the tray, can become a breeding ground for bacteria. Even worse, some cruise lines don't clean the inside of these machines as frequently as you'd expect. Deep cleaning takes time and staff, so in many cases, only the outside is wiped down, while the internal parts remain untouched for days. And when dairy sits in warm, enclosed spaces, spoilage isn't far behind. The flavor might seem fine until your stomach says otherwise. Craving something sweet? Go for the pre-packaged desserts or hit the main dining room for real ice cream scooped by a crew member using sanitized utensils. Not only is it safer, but it's usually higher quality and comes with toppings that didn't sit under a sneeze guard all day. Because dessert should end your night on a high note, not a dash to the nearest restroom. Now, if you think dessert drinks are safer, you might want to sit down. Tip number 7 is all about that welcome aboard cocktail and the hidden danger in your very first drink. You just boarded. The music's playing, the pool deck is buzzing, and a smiling crew member hands you a brightly colored drink in a souvenir cup. It's sweet, strong, and goes down way too easy. Sarah had 2 before her suitcase even reached her room. By evening, she had a pounding headache, dry mouth, and could barely enjoy the first night's show. Turns out that welcome aboard cocktail was doing more harm than good. Here's the issue. Many of these drinks are loaded with sugar, cheap liquor, and barely any hydration. Cruise ships often batch make these welcome cocktails in massive containers to hand out quickly. That means artificial mixers, low-tier alcohol, and a sugar bomb that spikes your blood sugar, then sends it crashing. Add to that the stress of travel, the heat of the sun, and the fact you're likely already a little dehydrated. And it's the perfect recipe for headaches, fatigue, and even nausea before the ship leaves port. Some first-time cruisers think it's just settling in jitters or motion sickness, when in reality it's that high-octane punch they chugged on the pool deck. And because these cocktails are often offered for free or included in drink packages, most people say yes without thinking twice. Want to start your cruise right? Sip slowly and drink water between cocktails. Or better yet, skip the sugary welcome drinks altogether. Go for a light mocktail, a glass of sparkling water with lime, or a basic mixed drink with no added syrup. You'll feel better, adjust quicker, and actually enjoy night one. And if you think cocktails are sneaky, the next healthy item might catch you off guard. It sounds fresh, light, and safe. But tip number 8 exposes why room service salads might be more risk than reward. After a heavy dinner the night before, Marcus wanted to keep it light. He ordered a Caesar salad from room service, thinking fresh greens in bed sounded like a smart, relaxing choice. But when it arrived, it looked a little limp. The croutons were soggy, the lettuce was warm, and the dressing had separated. He ate it anyway. The next morning, he was bloated, nauseous, and spent more time in his cabin than on the beach in Cozumel. Room service salads sound healthy, but they come with hidden risks. Why? Because on many cruise ships, they aren't made fresh per order. They're pre-assembled in the kitchen hours in advance and stored in chilled trays, or worse, left out to be delivered in batches. By the time it arrives at your door, that salad may have already spent too long at unsafe temperatures, especially if it's carried with hot foods or delayed during peak delivery hours. Lettuce wilts fast. Add creamy dressings like ranch or Caesar, which contain eggs or dairy, and you've got a ticking time bomb for bacteria. And because the produce isn't always washed thoroughly just before serving, especially in high-volume kitchens, you risk eating something that's been handled, stored, and warmed more than once. Still want your greens? Hit the salad bar at the buffet during peak hours, or better yet, head to the main dining room. There, salads are assembled fresh, kept at proper temperatures, and served right away, usually with better ingredients and cleaner handling. Because when you think you're making the healthy choice, the last thing you want is for it to backfire. And while salad is subtle, the next cruise night tradition might really surprise you. It's a themed dinner classic. But tip number 9 reveals why mystery meat nights might be best avoided altogether. It was Caribbean night. The dining room was decked out with pineapple centerpieces, steel drum music, and servers wearing floral shirts. On the menu, a chef's island roast with no real description. It looked like pork, or maybe beef. Nobody really knew. Dave took a bite, smiled politely, and kept chewing. And chewing, and chewing. By midnight, his stomach was staging a full-blown rebellion. Theme nights are a big deal on cruise ships. They're fun, festive, and often come with specialty dishes made just for the event. But here's the catch. Those entrees are usually made in massive batches, using lower quality cuts of meat or leftover ingredients from earlier meals. In the rush to feed thousands, the kitchen may prioritize appearance and quantity over freshness or clarity. So what you get is something that looks fun, but might be dry, overcooked, or even questionably reheated. The label island roast or Mediterranean surprise can hide all kinds of sins. Meats that were marinated too long, sauces that cover bland flavor, and proteins that just don't sit well when the sea is rocking and your stomach is tired from buffet grazing. The worst part? You won't know until it's too late. Want to enjoy theme night safely? Ask your server what the dish actually is and how it's cooked, or play it safe by ordering one of the standard menu items offered nightly, which are usually fresher and prepared to order. You can still enjoy the ambiance without taking a culinary risk. Because when the mystery meat lives up to its name, the only surprise you'll get is an upset stomach. But if you think the risk ends with dinner, think again. Tip number 10 dives into a drink that seems like a deal, but could wreck your whole evening. The port looked like paradise. White sand, local music, colorful shops, and a tiny beachside bar offering 2-for-1 rum punches. Tyler figured, why not? The drinks were strong, the bartender poured with flair, and after 2 rounds he was flying high. But halfway back to the ship, his stomach flipped. By sail away, he was pale, dizzy, and dehydrated. That night, spent entirely in the bathroom, skipping the formal dinner and missing the show he'd been excited about for weeks. Cheap alcohol and port might sound like a bargain, but here's what they don't tell you. You have no idea what's in it. In many cruise ports, the local bars use off-brand or unregulated spirits that can be harsh, poorly stored, or even cut with unsafe ingredients. Some aren't even legally labeled. Combine that with sugary mixers, unfiltered ice, and full sun exposure, and you've got the perfect recipe for a night you'll regret. Not only is the alcohol quality questionable, but your body's already adjusting to heat, humidity, and motion. One bad drink can tip the scale toward nausea, headaches, or worse. And remember, medical care on a cruise ship isn't cheap. An IV bag for dehydration could cost you more than the entire shore excursion. Want to enjoy a drink off the ship? Stick to bottled beer or sealed beverages, or only drink from trusted, well-known establishments that cater to cruise tourists and follow international safety guidelines. And always ask what's in your cocktail. If they can't tell you, skip it, because no bargain is worth ruining your night on board. And if you think alcohol is the last trap, wait until you see what people bring back onto the ship thinking it's healthy, when in fact it could get confiscated or worse. Tip number 11 is the one cruise food mistake that starts at the dock. Strolling through the port market, Jenna saw the juiciest mangoes she'd ever laid eyes on. A local vendor offered her a fresh bag for just $2. She bought 3, one for the beach, one for the ship, and one for home. But as she tried to board, security stopped her. The fruit was confiscated on the spot, and the crew warned her that sneaking it past them could result in a fine or even disembarkation at the next port. Cruise passengers often assume they can bring local produce back on board, but most cruise lines have strict agricultural restrictions for one simple reason. Foreign fruits and vegetables can carry pests, mold, or bacteria that threaten the ship's food supply and sanitation standards. Even if the fruit looks clean, the risk of contamination is too high. That's why even sealed packages can get flagged, and you're left embarrassed and empty-handed at the gangway. Worse, if you hide it and get caught later, say during cabin inspection or customs, it can be seen as an intentional violation. And while you likely won't be arrested, your cruise privileges could be suspended, or you might get a warning logged in your guest profile that follows you on future sailings. What's the better move? Enjoy fresh produce in port, but eat it there. Choose fruit that's cut in front of you or sealed by a trusted vendor, and always toss leftovers before returning to the ship. You'll stay on the cruise good side and avoid awkward surprises. But let's end on a positive note, shall we? Because not everything on board is a landmine waiting to ruin your vacation. In fact, there are some foods on a cruise that are absolutely worth indulging in. You've dodged the pitfalls. Now let's celebrate what's actually safe, satisfying, and totally delicious. All right, we've covered the landmines, but cruising isn't all danger and disappointment. In fact, there are some foods so consistently good, so well prepared, and so joyfully satisfying that skipping them would be the real mistake. Let's finish strong with 3 cruise staples you can and should enjoy without hesitation. The main dining room souffle. It only appears once or twice per sailing, usually on formal nights, and it's worth dressing up for. Light, warm, and just barely sweet, the cruise ship soufflé is a masterpiece. It's made fresh to order, delivered straight from the kitchen, and often served with a drizzle of rich chocolate or a scoop of real vanilla ice cream. Unlike mass buffet desserts, this dish gets individual attention, and it shows. Don't skip dessert in the dining room. Trust us, freshly baked bread at dinner. You'll smell it before you see it. Every night, warm rolls, mini baguettes, or buttery garlic knots are delivered to your table, baked on board that very afternoon. No preservatives, no plastic wrap, just oven-fresh comfort that rivals five-star restaurants. Pair it with the herb butter or try dipping it into your soup. It's the quiet superstar of the cruise meal, and it never disappoints. Omelets from the live station. Forget the mystery eggs. Walk up to the omelet station in the morning and watch your breakfast made right in front of you. Choose your fillings, get it cooked exactly how you like it, and enjoy the difference. The staff working these stations are fast, friendly, and know how to handle a hot pan. You'll get real eggs, fresh ingredients, and a golden brown finish every time. It's the breakfast win you can count on daily. So yes, cruise food has its downsides, but when you know what to skip and what to savor, the experience becomes far more enjoyable. You're not just eating, you're cruising smart. And now it's your turn. What's one food you always go for, or always avoid, when you're on a cruise? Drop your story in the comments. Your experience could help someone else have a smoother, safer, more delicious time at sea. Type smooth sailing if you made it to the end. Make sure to subscribe so you become part of the smart cruisers. Thanks for watching. Wishing you smooth seas and even better memories on your next cruise.